such a brilliant talent, so funny. He has worked on so many notable comedies. Just Shoot Me was one of his shows that he was on. He was on Grace Under Fire, Roseanne. Um, he he started as an intern on the Howard Stern show, which I didn't know until I was going to have him on today. And I thought, I guess I should look at a couple of Danny's credits. So I went back and saw that as well. And of course, really, I think the latest cornerstone of his career is his executive producer on Modern Family. Such a funny, funny show. I want to talk about the writer's strike, about the changing face of Hollywood, and about his feud with Donald Trump, which was also quite famous. All of that for the great Danny Zuker. Hey, Danny, welcome.
Hey, how are you? I have a deep V. Is this bothering you?
That is, I am bothered by deep V's, Danny. I
don't like them either. I don't like them at all.
Yeah, I really. Danny, you have done so much. You're an award winner. I mentioned your feud with Trump, which was quite special. You turned that into a book, which is great. Danny got into a Twitter feud with Trump, and it's wild how. And then I want to get to the writers, but just because I mention it, it's weird how why did he latch onto you as this guy?
I really don't know. So again, this was like a couple years before he ran, like 2014 or 2015. And I didn't make a big deal. I tried not to like tweet at celebrities because I found that, the very first tweet I ever got with a celebrity that made me viral was to Chris Brown after the Rihanna thing. And there was an earthquake in Virginia, and Chris Brown said, please pray for Virginia. And I tweeted, oh God, what did you do to her? And then, and that was, it went wild, but then his fans came after me. So I said, I'm not going to do it again. But then I thought with Trump, because at the time, you have to remember, no one liked Trump, not just people who could read. And everybody hated him at that point. And so I simply just said, he tweeted Celebrity Apprentice #1 show of the night. And then I tweeted back with a picture of the easily checkable fact where he was in last place. Cool story. Here's what actually happened. And then he responded. And then we just kept setting me up and hitting him down for months, hundreds of tweets.
Yeah.
What was informative about like both him and the country was that exchange went viral again when he got the Republican nomination. Only this time, people were like angry at me. Like there was nobody who was on his side. You could scroll down, you couldn't find anybody. But then it was like a lot of like, you're a whatever, wrong Y-O-U-R, by the way. Y-O-U-R, a jerk. But yeah, and if you read those, anything he's ever said about like a world leader or a congressperson or anybody, like it was all there in mind. Like everything was beta tested then. He hasn't come up with one original thing since then.
Well, and even after leaving the White House and now on Truth Social, it's the same thing. It's all caps. Horror show. You now it will help us maybe understand what's going on in Hollywood with the writer's strike.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's a real inflection moment in the sense that I see, first of all, the power concentrated in such few media companies' hands, and that is always scary. I've always railed against that, but now it's happened, and with the convergence of that and AI and streaming, help me sort this out. Help us understand what this is over and what might happen.
Well, I'll do my best. I mean, I will say that part of the reason I became a writer was like a comedy writer in particular was like I focus on doing one thing well. I don't like to even think about this other stuff. Like I write dick jokes. I write jokes about this kind of stuff. Like I don't think about that. So I'll do the best. I thank God there are writers who really are more suited to like I went to the Writers Guild meeting and I was so proud of our membership because it was so driven. But there was no way we couldn't strike given what's coming. It's there are people who are in my position who are working the same amount of weeks. Forget about the episodes. They're being strung out over the same amount of weeks of work who have to take a second job as producers on TV shows that are successful. At the same time, these executives at the top, and this is all of capitalism, are taking these giant packages and these giant. The guy from head of Roku just made like hundreds of millions of dollars. Roku, like you have to be able to name 3 shows on the network before you're going to do that, right? and they cry poverty, but somebody is getting rich, and they and so you kind of have to draw a line in the sand. And I think what's been encouraging about this particular strike is I think all workers, all people who create things or provide services recognize this is an existential threat to the economy, because we forget, yes, SAG-AFTRA 100% behind us, DGA really behind us, which has not always been the case sometimes, but the Teamsters won't cross our picket lines if we're there. And that's huge. And all these contracts are coming up, and there's never been a need for more content, and we've never been paid less for it. And somebody pointed out, with the new model of streaming, we're not making as much money. It's like, well, we didn't tell you to go to that model. Like, that's unsustainable. There are 8 paid streaming companies. Now, we all know that people aren't going to do that. No, it just isn't going to happen. So they're going to get however that works. But we shouldn't have to pay for that experiment so that you can pay off of Wall Street.
So let me just understand this in terms of, and you're really a perfect person to speak to about this because you came up through the traditional model, which is that you're working on a show, you're writing on a show, and then let me understand this, that episode of the show, Modern Family, let's say, that goes into a rerun, right? I mean, it's run again, and then syndication. And you as a writer on that episode or that series of episodes, you'll receive those residuals, right? Is that what that?
We will.
Right.
That's basically it. And it was a really clear residual package, and especially with first run network residuals, that was a good amount of money. Obviously, once it goes into syndication, we're getting less and less unless we created the show. However, we were doing that. When I first started out, we would be doing a minimum of 22 episodes a season, often 24. And we would be paid per episode, which made sense. I mean, because however many weeks it would take to do 24 episodes, that would be fine. What has happened is that being paid per episode situation now, they're taking just as long to make the 8 or 10 because they're these grand productions. So you're effectively having your salaries cut by 2/3 for lower level writers and where you're at. And we don't even know how well these shows are doing on these platforms because even that algorithm is secret. So there's just not a lot of sharing. People are getting wealthy and they are asking for austerity, and yet we see no austerity from Wall Street or from the corporate heads, just as is happening in every single business. These corporations, these billion dollar corporations got they had $1 trillion giveaway in tax cuts, and the idea was that was going to be that it was better in their hands than in the government's, and that wealth would trickle down.
Yeah,
the only thing we've created is more billionaires. That's the one thing we made, but none of that is. Those billionaires are crying poverty, and we're the ones who do the work. And no one is asking for outrageous stuff. And I know people like, oh, you writers, you have it so good. And look, I've had a great career, and I've done very well for myself, and was compensated for it, and I'm pleased by it to do that. But writers coming up right now, it's hard to make a career. And
that's the point. Danny Zuker today doing exactly what you did before. You're saying it's all different.
It's all different. And coming up right now with, it's really hard. And they're having these ridiculously small writers' rooms that because we have no money, This is an important point. Please explain that. These are the Minirooms that we're talking about. The Minirooms, yeah. And so we're getting these sort of Minirooms to go where sort of the upper levels are expected to do all the pre-production and post-production. And we know that writing gets done all throughout the process. But they're paying for this, and so which effectively means less jobs for people, less of a chance to there's a real mentorship in here. There's a real like apprenticeship that does take place amongst writers, being slowly given some responsibilities, learning how the cogs in the machine work, and because it's a craft, and not everybody can do it,
and so the idea is that these mini rooms are increasingly places where small numbers of writers are being exploited to basically build out story episodes, arcs, and everything.
There's that, and because writers' budgets have fallen down, you can't even take a flyer on a young writer anymore.
I see. I see.
So it's both things. It's both things, and there's a lot of unpaid writing that they want from us. There's a lot. The movie side is terrible. And how many rewrites they have to do, and there is this overwhelming feeling from their side is that we're lucky to get to do this, and we are. But we're lucky because it's a good career. It used to be a good career. We're not. It's not.
Right.
So,
right. I'm not lucky just to drive on the lot. I'm lucky because driving on the lot has a job at the end of it that used to be really good.
And security, and it's the story as old as Hollywood that writers are not appreciated. And I've never been one of those people to whine. I don't care if you disrespect me. I don't. I'm gonna write my jokes. I don't respect you either. I just want to get paid. Like, that's it. I don't need your respect.
Right.
So
now I ask you, and by the way, if you have any questions for Danny Zuker, please put them in the chat. And Kim, maybe you can help. I'm not looking at the chat right now, but if there's anything that's particularly appropriate, I'd love to. AB5 destroy that? No. The question
I do see some.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
You go. It's your show. I'm looking.
Well, okay. All I was going to say is, so we get to the point that I feel brings us to the big question, which is, well, there are really two questions. One is the length of the strike, which I think could be substantial, and then the concessions that at the end of it all we might see on the part of studios to give the writers back something. Is it too early to handicap it? What's your sense? It seems to me like neither side's talking.
When this is my feeling, because I was not sure, and then the AMPTT, they came back with their proposal, their answer to our proposal, which was, I won't go through it point by point, but it was beyond insulting. It was like not even engaging on key things. And again, we weren't asking. We're not asking for anything ridiculous. The normal things you would ask for. Not even engaging. And so that made me think that they knew we were going to strike. And maybe on some level, I don't know the mechanics of this. I have to assume that at least at the beginning, for a little while, the strike benefits them and that they can get rid of spending of some things. And, it's a way to drop deals. That's what I seen to happen in the last one. But that only works for a short amount of time. And I think it's going to be, I don't hear anybody who thinks it's going to be short on the lines. I'm not a prognosticator. I don't know.
Just to that last point, Danny, I saw a memo that went out that was leaked or published that said, if you're an executive producer on any project that's in production, if production is interrupted for any reason, including this writer's strike, you will no longer be compensated. So the full...
Yeah, Disney sent that out.
That's it. Okay, it was Disney.
That was Disney. Yeah, it was like, that's they're trying to play. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to play hardball. We have to, any game anybody in a union has ever had has come with pain. Unfortunately, it's like there's no such thing as largesse in the business world. And so,
do you think AI will take over writing scripts? Karen is asking. Writers knew trouble was coming when they introduced reality TV, which cuts out the writer. But what about AI?
Well, let me just go to the end part. With reality TV, what we knew was reality TV is written, and I think we have to get the people. I'm sorry to tell you how the magic trick is done. There are writers there, believe it or not. I know it's so natural. Yeah, I know. What we did see in the last strike was the coming of streaming and broadband, which was like the writers have been very good at negotiating this. I think they're going to give AI a shot. They've already expressed they're putting a lot of money into AI tech. tech wants to be in Hollywood, and tech is bad at it, and that's what they want to do. I think AI. Look, I think AI can create bad scripts. I think that an AI could write a bad show for sure. But AI is only as good as whatever is out there. It doesn't like synthesize. It says, oh, here's this. Here's this. We'll put those two things together. And
I particularly think AI, and it's interesting to be talking to you about this.
Yeah.
I particularly think AI struggles or would struggle and will struggle with comedy.
Oh, it's like, look, anyone who thinks an algorithm can do comedy did not watch Elon Musk on Host SNL. Like, if you watch that's about the level, or read his tweets. It's not. We've tried. You try. Comedy has to surprise you. So in order for the thing about comedy is it's surprise. The way the algorithm works, though, is it doesn't go for the surprise. It goes for what's expected. It has the rhythm of a joke. And I've attempted. Everybody is like popular little things to write this, and yeah, it'll get the rhythm of things, but yeah, it's not going to create the kind of hit that will draw subscribe. The whole model, if you want to do subscription television, is have those shows that are great that people want to pay to see. And honestly, you're not going to want to pay to see that. Who knows? 50 years, I can't predict what's happening 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, but I don't see that becoming a big. But they're going to try, and they're sure going to give it a shot.
Right. What will it take to end the strike specifically? Julie wants to know.
I think it's going to. First of all, they have to come back to the table. They have to address our points, and there's wiggle room on some, and there isn't. I think that, but they have no interest in that right now. They're just, they're in their sort of gather the troops mode. As far as I know, I haven't been reading today. Maybe there's been movement, but it didn't look like it. So,
is there there's a strike fund, right?
There is a strike fund that is available to people. And again, I'm not.
You're well above that level.
I'm out of my depths, but I know that they create that. It's there to provide loans to people. No payment for a couple of years, and get that if they need that. And I even think that there's a fund, and I wish I had the information for some of the support staff, like writers' assistants and things like that. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing that writers is such an overarching term for so many people who contribute to the process. Danny, reality TV is scripted. God, that's that's crap. I wouldn't want to put my name on that stream bowl of poop.
I put my name on any bowl of poop if the check was big enough.
Exactly.
You should look at my IMDb. It's not all just Shoot Me and
Modern
Family, and Roseanne. Thank you for pointing those out. I may have written on Stacked with Pamela Anderson. I'm not going to say anything, but
hey, look, did you see the Pamela Anderson documentary, by the way?
So fucking good.
Yeah, it really was good. I really was.
Swear? Am I allowed to swear? I just.
We avoid it, but it's okay.
Oh, sorry.
It was really, really good. It is really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually maybe a brag, Denny, is my point.
Oh, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get you to comment on how great Stacked was. But.
Soon AI will determine what is funny, and the human sheep will laugh. Wow, listen to that. Perry Joe Jim Bob with
I think just the MAGAs.
Like
I had one sign. I said, "Imagine Gutfeld without writers," and then I said, "Oh, bad example."
Right, that is, you've got Gutfeld, right. Jim Shields says, can Danny explain in more detail, the current process versus what is happening in Minirooms, e.g. what the studios want to change?
Well, it's not what the studios want to change. They're exploiting us. We want to codify what, writing staffs. We want to codify, you have a show like this is what the writing staffs would be, and you pay them throughout. That's all. It's just
right. And this is the thing. Their payments throughout, they're now condensing. They're payments that would last through an entire year, let's say, or through 10 months. And now it's condensed. We'll pay you for a month. you sweat like crazy to build out the season. That's what I've read. I mean,
yeah, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of coming in early and doing that and mapping it out. And look, there's always going to be like if I'm creating a show, I will be the auteur and I will be fully prepared with writing I'm not paid for.
Sure.
That's my choice. Like I'm doing it because it's mine. And I will get the payoff at the end. But when you're trying to gather these mini rooms to do that kind of stuff and not fairly compensating them, and I don't know all the ins and outs of this.
Yeah, but that's the point. There are plenty of people. I was telling the story in the last half hour about how there was a writer who's involved in a show who was being in touch with an editor who said, look, if you need to reach me, I'm technically not supposed to talk about anything related to the writing of the show, but if you need a question about a shot or something, I can answer that question. So you see how people want, you've crafted this show, you want it to be good. And
of course.
So to your point, I'm sure there's plenty of writing normally that goes on and you're not compensated for it. Nobody's saying everybody's a clock watcher. It just strikes me that they are breaking in half the way that writing used to be.
That's it. And we always go above and beyond. That's always the thing. We write promos. That's like their department.
Sure,
I've never been on a show because we're just, we are good. We're ostensibly, we should be good writers if we're working there. So we might be able to promo the show better. That's uncompensated, but we're all doing it for the greater good. No one's complaining, or maybe people are complaining and maybe we shouldn't do that. I don't know. But
right.
I don't know. It's just death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Right.
And it's only going to get worse.
That's my fear. It really is.
Yeah, it's really the whole country though feels very like, France before they broke out the guillotines. I mean, the disparity in the wealth gap is just
it's crazy.
It's insane.
And as you say, the tax cuts under the last administration created even greater wealth. And
and then we're all worried about what we pay teachers instead. Like teachers should really be austere, but billionaires can buy spaceships or Twitter. It's like what that's.
Yeah, it's just it's true. It's truly we're on our side. And then, it's a disturbing time in this country. As I was saying at the start of the show, I feel like America is broken right now. And I don't want to say it too much because it just bums people out. But these are real issues. And I think if we do make enough noise about them, at least perhaps we can shame some legislators into some change. Although even the legislative process is broken. So,
well, of course, because, I know it's the whole, I always say the problem with this country is that there's 2 Dakotas.
Right. By the way, that's,
It's like there's 2 Dakotas and no Washington. Like Washington, D.C. has greater population than both Dakotas. And so, and the fact that, you could be living, we're moving to urban cities, but my vote is worth like 1,000th of what a vote in Iowa is. Like none of that is fair. That's a part of democracy that no other country adopted. They loved American democracy. They said, we don't need to do this part though, So
bravo.
Yeah, we have big problems. And money and between that and Citizens United.
Money and politics.
I not only look like Bernie Sanders, I'm turning into it. I can feel it.
Danny, you're a treasure. Come back and join us again. I'd love for you to come back through and we'll just kick it around. But I really appreciated you throwing some light onto this WGA thing. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for the great questions. I'm reading these things and you're all very kind in the chat. I'm not used to internet comments being this so nice. So
what?
Well done. Yeah, normally I'd be crying right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, Danny Zuker, everybody. Bye, Danny.
Bye.
Woohoo. Yeah, love it. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.